Welcome to the Happy Soul Podcast. My name is Melissa, and this is Sammi. We are diving deep into conversations that connect and inspire. Stories of resilience, triumph, and transformation. Stories that take us to the heart of human connection. Please note that opinions of our guests do not necessarily reflect those of this podcast. Please listen with your kindness and an open mind. Each story shared is authentic and vulnerable. Let's embrace our differences with empathy, knowing every voice enriches us. Together, let's cultivate a community of respect and curiosity. Thank you for listening. Now sit back, relax, and prepare to be inspired. Hey, welcome back to the Happy Soul Podcast, everyone. Today, Sammi and I are, feels like an old-fashioned banter kind of day, Sammi.
It does, yeah.
So we have been releasing episodes and talking about SMA, spinal muscular atrophy, all through August for SMA Awareness Month. And today we are going to wrap up August with just a little conversation about what we have taken away from these conversations and the things that we've learned, and just talk about how August has been for us. So welcome to today.
Yeah.
Hey.
I think it's cool to wrap it up with, and part of me is like, is it redundant? But I don't think it is, because it's important to point out these little things that I think if you've listened to the episodes of our guests and you've been following along, whether it's just on Instagram or on just the podcast, there's probably, I guess I should say, if you've been listening and you've been listening because you care and not because you're a critic, the things you will pick up on are a lot of these little things, and they probably sat with you in some way, but maybe didn't hit home. And so we want to talk about some of these things, and I can't say that we'll hit all of them that kind of clicked for everybody, but the ones that have clicked for us, and hopefully us talking about them helps them hit home for everybody else, because I feel like that, I don't know. I feel like when something comes up a couple times, you're like, oh, yeah, okay. And it allows us to implement more in our lives, whether it's the gratitude or the recognition or whatever it is of those kinds of things. I feel like that second hit around kind of helps with that. So I'm excited to talk about these things today, because I feel like there's been quite a few of them, and along the way of talking to all of our guests. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree. You said that so perfectly. I feel like we invest a lot of our energy into kind of each episode. And we feel like we're making connections with our guests. And then this is our first month-long awareness. This is our first awareness month that we've done. That's like a whole month of a collection of episodes and a collection of content that we are creating and things that we're learning for that amount of time. And it just wouldn't feel right to end that month, start the next month without just wrapping it up with a conversation. And you're right. When we kind of talk about all those things, things have been dancing in my head and I've written some things down, but having a conversation, I feel like it just helps to kind of solidify it. And sometimes even we might have, I don't know, for me anyways, there have been times where I might have an idea that's not quite formulated, and then it really hits home when we start to chat about it. So yeah, I love it.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Bring up something that really was hitting home for you, Melissa. Tell me something that's top of your mind. Not maybe the biggest one, but top of your mind.
Okay. The top of my mind for today, and I have notes. I don't want to there are some things that I really want to make sure I say, but the top of my mind today is gratitude. So we've learned a lot this month, and we've learned a lot in our conversations. And for me, there were things that were hitting me as we were having the conversations. But then also afterwards, when I sit in them, when we're editing them and listening to them again and creating content and stuff, there's just so much gratitude. I just think that some of the things that came up in conversation were talking about the things that we might take for granted as able-bodied people, and as able-bodied people who have not had a child born with physical disability. So those two things, it's hard for me to even put into words. as I've been going through my days, I will catch myself doing something and then go, oh, like bitching about that my laundry's in my basement. But I'm able to go down my stairs and switch the laundry in my basement. So I've been actually finding a little bit more joy in those kind of what people would call a mundane task, because I'm like, I'm able to do that. When Candace brought up opening her front door, I had goosebumps. I was like, hold on a minute. We don't think about that. We don't think about the home and just being able to go outside and have a coffee on the porch whenever we want. Like, come on. That is like the very basic level of like, we really need to appreciate these things and also move that into action in like, okay, how do we make this possible for somebody else, somebody who can't do that? And I mean, one of those great ways that we talked about is supporting an amazing foundation like Love for Lewiston that brings these things to people. Like, I know I'm on a bit of a, but I don't know. I've just been filled with so much gratitude for things like that. I mean, listen, we're late today because I got pulled over. And I could be really upset about that. But listen, I got pulled over because I can get in my car and I can drive it. And it was my fault. You know, like things like that. Like I'm grateful to, and I'm not saying I'm never going to be cranky about picking up my kids' toys again, but I'm grateful to be able to do that. And I don't know, when you think about something on that level, it just, yeah, I don't know. Taking out the garbage or this one, when Candace said, I actually wrote this down. Hold on, pause just a second because I have to get to this page. There it is. Okay. When we were talking to Candace about if her medication was affecting her yet in a good way, and she wasn't totally sure, but she was talking about the abilities that she was starting to lose in the last kind of 6 months. And one thing, she said a sentence and it hit me when she said it. And then again, when we were editing the episode, she said, quote, I even get a drink out of the fridge. I could even get a drink out of the fridge. The way she said that line, I was like, I wanted to cry. Like, I can even get a drink out of the fridge. Can you imagine saying that as an able-bodied person? No. We just go get the bloody drink out of the fridge without realizing how flippin' lucky we are to be able to just go get a drink out of the fridge. So anyways, that was a really long rant, but that's the thing that's sitting on my heart today is just the gratitude that I have for the ability of my body. And yeah. How about you?
I agree. And I wasn't going to put this in the episode, but I'm going to put it in here anyways, because I want to make sure that all of the things that we're saying are coming across in a place of gratitude and recognition and respect and a desire to bring more awareness and help more with the creating more abilities for those who live with a disability, and not from a place of 100%. Like, we're so lucky, like we get to do these things and they don't, you know. And totally, I know that's not how you meant it, but obviously our listeners don't know us that well. They don't know our hearts. They don't know anything about us. And I worry that this episode could come across in that way. And I hope that it doesn't. And so I just want to put that in there because I hope that it doesn't come across that way, because that's not at all how we mean it. It's created a desire for us to just, like you said, just be more grateful for what we have instead of bitching about what we have, instead of complaining about the things that we, you know, like Jessica Jansen says it really well all the time. Like, stop complaining about the cellulite on your legs and be damn grateful that you can use and move both of your legs, because not everybody can. And it's true, you know. I literally, we just came back from a 10-day trip and we were out on the beaches a whole bunch, and I was in a bathing suit, and the amount of times Jessica Jansen crossed my mind in when I was feeling uncomfortable in a bathing suit, or feeling like I was being judged, or feeling like I wasn't fit enough to be in a bathing suit, or whatever it may be. And I'm like, just be grateful. Be damn grateful that you could be here on the beach. And you're not and you got to walk here on these two legs of yours. And I just like, I think she says it so well. You know, I think she really says it so well. And so, yeah, definitely the huge gratitude piece for me. And I've been noticing myself. You always notice the wheel. I shouldn't say always. I tend to typically notice before these episodes, like wheelchair accessible buttons and doors and ramps. And I noticed them and I knew that they weren't built for me, but I didn't place the gratitude on them that I can now, in the sense of like, a wheelchair accessible button isn't there for me, and I don't use them unless I'm pushing a stroller through the door, because I'm like, I have muscles in my arms, I should use them. They're not there for me. They're there for wheelchairs, or, you know, if you have full hands, you need to hit the button with your elbow, or you're pushing a stroller. That's what they're there for. And so I always tell my kids, you don't push that button, you open the door. You have hands, you use them, because like you don't use it, you lose it, really. It's like, and so anyways, so just going back to what I was saying is like noticing the doors and the buttons and the ramps and all of these things. I used to notice them, but now I place gratitude on them for like the way that they help me, even though they're meant to help somebody else. You know, and the ways that the world has been able to create more abilities for those that live with disabilities. Like that's one of the things that we said, I think, in the Just Low episode, was that like it used to be a world of where like if you were born with a disability, you just had to deal with that. You weren't supposed to be part of the rest of the world if you were born with a disability or a difference of any kind, you know, like a difference of any kind. You were not to be accepted. You were not supposed to be made to fit into the world. And we're in a world now where we're trying to actually make it that way. And we've come a long way. We still have a long way to go. And I just think that that's that different mentality shift is really, really neat to see. And it's not perfect, like I said, but just noticing those things and being more aware of them, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Not taking things, I think one of the things is like just to not take things for granted. And maybe that needs to replace how is really saying, like putting the emphasis on gratitude. Maybe it's just like not taking it for granted. I'm not going to take my body for granted. And when you have conversations like that, it really highlights that, how often we can take things for granted when we are, you know, if we're capable of doing something, then don't take it for granted.
Absolutely.
And don't complain about it. You know, one of the things, okay, so, I mean, you know what's tough is like when we record the episodes, how we record the episodes are further apart than how they are released. So I'm like, I don't want to leave anything out. And I know there's going to be something when I listen to it. Oh, I should have said that. But one of the things that was like, and I'm talking about Candace's episode again, but she talked about spending time alone and how tricky it was to get herself set up to spend time alone. And I was like, oh, there's another thing that we could take for granted. I never thought about that. Like, of course.
Yeah.
And like the ability to move in your bed and kind of shift positions. Like, man, just things that you don't think about. Yeah. And then another thing that that's on my list of takeaways is this one. And again, like I'm kind of like, I'm going through my notes, and Candace's was the last one that we edited. So this part is fresher in my mind, but she talked about how she's usually a pretty patient person. And so when these medications became approved in Canada, she kind of sat back patiently and waited and thought like, it's going to come to me when it's time. And then she started losing more ability. And then, you know, she had to kind of take action. And I thought, you know what? Something struck me in that part of the conversation where I thought, she was describing how exhausting it can be to eat, to lift her fork to her mouth repeatedly, and how exhausting that was for her muscles. I thought, you know what? You know what is wild is the powers that be, in quotations, people, it's very easy to have a stack of papers on your desk and need to get through all these papers. And it's very easy to put something on the back burner when you're not working that hard to feed yourself. So the urgency isn't there for somebody who has who isn't losing their ability, where like the urgency is placed on an individual to fight for their abilities, to fight for their life. I mean, it's pretty easy for somebody to just put the paper on the back of the desk when they can go home and feed themselves easily. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I don't want to get like complaining about, like, I don't want to go down the train of like, you know, I don't want to start like bashing government or bashing. I don't want to go there. But that struck me as something that was like interesting.
No, I mean, and I don't even think you have to, yeah, absolutely. I don't think you have to go down the route of bashing government even. You can even just talk about, like, that just goes back into the taking for granted, right? Like, there's no urgency. It's like, for us, even just the two of us, a lot of these things we were taking for granted. Even if we were grateful, we were taking for granted because we didn't really realize I said granted. Not marble, not granite, granted. Taking it and not really thinking about how grateful we can be for it. You know, like there's so many things, and especially when you live in a first world country, that you could do that with. We're bringing it specifically back to SMA and mobility and access and accessibility, but that can go a really long way, and that stretches into everything, right? If it's not forefront and center of your brain, it's not urgent, it's not important, it's not that way, right? But when you get to knowing people in that world and you step yourself into that world a little bit more, it does become more urgent when you start to understand how this actually, if someone, the powers that be, the person who signs those papers and people who sign those papers could come down and watch people living in the everyday life, it would bring, I'm not saying it would change things, but it would bring more urgency to the decision-making process instead of this like, we'll just try it on the babies for 15 years and then however it goes on the babies, then we'll let the other people have it. You know, not recognizing that those other people have lives that they're living right now, and those lives can be significantly impacted if you don't put it off for 15 years. And like Candace said, and if I'm going to grow a third arm because I'm trying to get my ability back, so be it. I'm willing to take that risk. Not everybody would be, but some people would be, and let those people, you know, anyways. Yeah,
totally. And speaking of taking things for granted, the conversation with Tori about travel.
Oh yeah.
Holy, when she was talking about how much work she has to do to go on a trip, I was like, oh, yowza. That is wild.
Absolutely.
And like the tenacity that she has to keep going and keep pushing, and also like the combination of advocating and also that she's continuing to travel, that she's continuing to seek out these trips and to do this and to put the work in to do it, and also to talk about it and share with other people, you can do it too. Like, here's a place that's great. This worked for me. This didn't work. Like, I think it's amazing what she's doing.
Yes, I 100% agree. And I know, and with each of these guests that we've spoken to, we say like some derivative of what you're doing is making a really big difference. And they're like, like it's not that big a deal. Like, I don't understand. And the reason it's making a big difference is because they're choosing to persevere. And this, like I said to Candace, this could be said about anybody with or without SMA. You just happen to have SMA and we're talking about it with you. Because many people choose to let small obstacles get in their way and prevent them from doing things that are important to them. And you have bigger obstacles than many people have to deal with, and you're still choosing to persevere through them and continue to fight for the things that are important to you, whether that's travel, whether that's access to medication, whether that's whatever it may be, right? You're still choosing to. So that's what's amazing about it. And like with the Tori with travel, like when I listen to her talk about, I just want to circle back to that video that got such a bad rap on the internet. And like, if you're a troll and you're listening to this, you can stop commenting on our posts about it, because we're going to keep deleting them to the best of our ability, because I just don't have a place for a troll on the internet. I don't know how you have time for it. I just don't understand. Go back and listen to Chris Bridges' episode. We talk about it in that too. Like, I don't know how you have time to spread so much hate on the internet. Go find better things to do with your time. And and the thing is like, when you go and hear more of that story, if all you see is the reel of her getting carried off the plane, if that's all you see, and you're not choosing to go and listen to more of her episode where we actually talk more in depth about that situation and how she made all the calls, she called all the people, she asked all the questions. She didn't just book a flight and hope for the best. Like most of us do. Most of us go online, book a flight, hope for the best. You don't know what you're getting out on. You don't know what plane you're getting on. You don't know what it's going to look like. You don't know anything. You just book a flight and show up at the airport and get on a plane.
Because how you get off the plane, sorry to interrupt you, because how you get off the plane is not,
doesn't matter.
barring, a plane crash. It's not a life-threatening situation. It is not a stressful, life-threatening situation.
Yeah.
We go down the stairs or we go on the jet bridge. This is not life-threatening. This is not stressful.
Does not change your vacation whatsoever. But it does for her. And like I said, she didn't just book a plane and hope for the best. She is doing all of this work to make sure that she's setting herself up the right way to travel. And that failed. And that was the point of her video. It wasn't, oh my gosh, like this happened. It was like, I did all of these things to prevent this from having to happen. And it happened anyways. You know what I mean? Like, and so like, if you're not seeing the whole picture, you can't understand. You have no say in the story. Really,
100%. 100%. And like, and she's got such a beautiful, perspective and tenacity to her. Like, how do I say this? When we were a couple times in conversations, this has come up where we say like, you're an inspiration. And that's kind of a little bit of a sore point potentially for some people. And I actually want to dive deeper into that conversation. Not today, but, and I remember I'm bringing up Candace's episode again, but I remember you saying like, listen, you would be an inspiration. You are an inspiration. Your heart is an inspiration. Beyond your SMA, you are an inspiration. So this is like, this situation happened because of her SMA and because of her abilities. That's why the story happened. But her tenacity through it, that is her. Because a lot of people would not go back and fly with Air Canada and what they would call CBC if they got a rotten potato in their food. She was put in a life-threatening situation, a very stressful situation, and she came out of it as an ambassador or as an advocate, and speaking up for herself and speaking up for community and bringing awareness to it. She didn't back down, but she's polite and she was graceful. And did you happen to notice what airline she flew with to go to Nashville?
Was it Air Canada? No, I didn't.
She went with Air Canada. And I was like, what? That's incredible. Like,
some people will stop flying with somebody just because they didn't get the right peanuts on their plane.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying is like, she is just such a lovely person and so graceful. And the fact that somebody would have the audacity to be rude period, and also to be rude without knowing all the information is just absolutely blows my mind. And by the way, she came out of that situation with grace as well, because it would also that I have never been in that situation, but to have so many people saying so many negative and just hateful, awful things would be enough for me to turn off my internet and never go back to social media again. Like, but she looked at that and said, okay, that was shitty. But let's look at the people who have given positive feedback, who have said positive things, who have said, you are helping me and you have inspired me and you are making a difference to me and to so many other people. And she's choosing to put her focus on those people and to not put her focus on the trolls. And I think that is really incredible. Mm-hmm. I think that's really incredible. Like, yeah. And that goes beyond, you know, like, gosh, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here when I say this, but that goes beyond. That is her heart. That is who she is. That is her personality. And I really admire her for how much she has gone through and for how she's doing it.
Let's just flip it for a second. No, not flipping what you're saying, but like the perspective shift. Like if you are an able-bodied person and you pulled up to get off a plane and they forced you to be wheeled off in a broken wheelchair, how would you feel about it? You're like, no, I can walk. If you just let me go, I can walk. No, we can't. We don't have access to that. You have to be wheeled.
In another language too. You can't talk to them. You can't talk to them. They're just going to put you in that chair.
Yeah. Like you'd be livid. Anybody else would be livid. But instead of the world being like, oh yeah, like that is something we can fix, which many people are that way. There's a whole world of people being like, wow, just you expect too much.
Oh my God.
Nope.
That makes me so mad. That couple just went through that too.
I saw that, yeah.
Did you see that? And all of the hate comments that they got? And did you see their post afterwards?
No.
They posted afterwards again, just thanking the community for rallying behind them and for showing their love beyond the haters and the people that choose to say horrible things. I mean, I just... Anyways, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what I want to talk about for a sec? I want to talk about the Jesses. I love that we have the Jesses. Like, it's so cool. Jess Lowe. Holy.
Yeah.
Is she a force to be reckoned with or what?
I know. And I was thinking about that when you were talking. It's just like her there, you know, and she would, I'm sure she would say anybody would do the same. And the thing is, they wouldn't. And I don't mean that to hit on anybody else. I mean that to highlight who she is and what her and her family did. And I say that because, you know, she said that she was in contact with lots of other parents, and hopefully this doesn't make anybody angry, but, and they just didn't have the ability to. I'm not saying they wouldn't if they could have. They just didn't have the ability to make the steps that their family took. And so it's just like, yeah, like they just went above and beyond to do all of these, quitting their job, moving the country in the middle of COVID with a medically fragile child. Like,
the way she was telling her story, the amount of times I had to mute my mic because I was like, it was like, oh my gosh, and then the border shut down. And then I just kept reacting because I was like, holy, they were up against it. And maybe a better way of saying it, instead of saying it like not everybody would do the same. No, not just that not everybody would do this. They did that. They pushed through the hard, and they did that. They pushed through uncertainty, and they did it. And they leaned on their faith, and they leaned on their gut feelings, and they pushed through some serious challenges and did what they thought was hopefully going to work out the best for them. And it did. And like, that's also a good time to talk about like, holy, the amount of change that has happened. Like, we need to, as a society, we need to do better for our adults that are living with SMA specifically, but also adults that are in the disabled community. We do need to do better, because stuff like what happened to Tori that should just not happen. And stuff like, you know, these adults needing to fight to receive life-saving and life-changing medication, that should not happen. We need to do better, period. Then also, let's talk about how much this is changing. Like when Jessica Jansen said, we are going to see a cure to this in my lifetime, I am like, that is her, like, this is going to happen. And when you see how much it has changed in such a short period of time, I'm like, dang girl, you might be right. Like, it's actually possible. I believe that it's actually possible. Look at how the medication is. It's hard to get. It's hard to, like, it has been, I am not trying to downplay how difficult it has been to get these medications. But the fact that they have this newborn screening that can catch it so early, and like you look at pictures of Jess's daughter walking and you think, oh my gosh, like the difference that this medication is making is astounding. And there's still so much to do, but can we just revel in for a second in how amazing this is right now? Like, there are some seriously incredible things happening.
Yeah. Revel. Let's revel. I revel in it. I just want to say, backtracking on two things you said. Number one, like the way that I said, like many people wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do it. Like, I think about putting myself in that situation, and I think I would. I think I would be like, yeah, I would fight for my kid too. I absolutely would fight with my kid. But if I think about all of those little aspects of like, well, you can't quit your job. How are we going to have any money? Well, we just bought this house. Like, what are we going to, we're just going to sell this house? We can't cross the border right now to Boston. It's a COVID hotspot. Like, all of our kids are going to get sick. We have a medically fragile child. We're probably going to kill them. Like, those things would all happen, and probably, I'm like 90% sure, stop me from doing what she did. So that wasn't like a hit on anybody else. That was just like a recognition of the overcoming that they went through, because I think that those things would stop. I would like to believe that I would do them, but like realistically, I think I probably would have stopped myself with all of those things going on. Like, I don't think I would have. I would have let all of those things stop me.
And those would all be legitimate reasons.
100%.
Like, nobody would say, you're not doing what's best for your child. Nobody would say that. Because, you know, like, those are all giant legitimate reasons. And they, like, the fact that they just, like, really leaned in on their belief system and on each other and powered through that. I mean, whew. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, not to say that a lot of people wouldn't do what's best for their child, but a lot of people wouldn't be able to push through those uncertainties and those fears, because that they are legitimate fears. Like,
and because those fears would also be taken into consideration what's best for your child.
100%. Yeah.
So that it's just different things. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to say is, like, when you're talking about Jessica Jansen and talking about the cure and how far medicine has come, what I always think about how far medicine has come is, and, you know, if someone would say, like, there's no way there's going to be a cure like this, blah, 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 we could talk about cancer, we can talk about SMA, whatever. Like you said, the medication has come so far in the last 8 years, in making such a massive difference for the people that have gained early access to these medications. And all I think back is, like, if people were to question it, and the possibility that I can get there, is let's just, like, circle back to a really long time ago when treating pneumonia was really hard to do. Like, let's go back to that old school movie Balto, and, like, do you ever see Balto? It's a story about a little girl in, like, I don't know if she's in Alaska, but, like, an Alaska type country, area of the world. Country is the wrong word here. Area of the world, Northern Territories, and where there's huskies and stuff. And this little girl is sick, and I think it's pneumonia that she has. And she's really, really sick, and they have no medication. There's not medication coming in. It's frozen. There's no way to get medication shipped there. And this husky team goes through all of this and, like, brings this medication. And it's like, these are the only vials they have. If they could break the box at any point and all this stuff. My point is that there was so many things that were harder and we couldn't treat a long time ago, and now we can, and that's shifted a bunch.
Yeah.
So like it's possible.
Totally. It's totally possible. I mean, there are a lot of diagnoses that used to be life-threatening that are now not life-threatening or just don't exist anymore. You know, you see these pictures of like when polio was a big thing, and see them in their, have you ever seen pictures of that where they're like all in these great big tube things that
Probably.
look like an MRI machine? And like that was a big deal. Like that was
Polio would still be a big deal. To be
it's
fair,
still a big deal, but it's
out.
not. It's still a big deal, but it's not the epidemic it was. You know, like they have come really far in, you know. So you're absolutely right. Like there are a lot of diseases and diagnoses that have come a long way. And some things don't even exist anymore, or hardly exist, or don't exist to the level that they used to.
Yeah.
So
medication is moving forward so fast now. And whether it's the access to it or the way that it works, it's all growing. And so, I think what Jessica Jansen said about there being a cure in her lifetime, hopefully.
I believe it's possible.
What I liked really reflecting on is we had 4 guests, but we had 3 different types of guests. You know, Tori and Candace both live with SMA, and they're in adulthood, and both of their parents were told when they were born that they probably wouldn't survive. And they're living into adulthood. Now, obviously, Tori's in her 20s, Candace is in her 40s. And then Jessica Jansen and Jess Lowe both had children diagnosed with SMA within 2 months. And like Jess Lowe said, that their stories are so similar, but they were years apart. And so I can't remember how many years apart. I think 5 years apart.
I don't remember
3
what
years.
she said. I'm going to have to go back.
Maybe 3
but it
years.
was almost to the day too, she said. Like, remember when she was talking about the months? Like, when their children were born and when they were diagnosed?
Yeah, but I think it was like 3 years apart. I think because it was Lewiston's 8th birthday, and I'm pretty sure Aubrey is 5. So 3 years apart. They were born 3 years apart, diagnosed at the exact same age. And unfortunately, Lewiston passed away because they didn't have medication for it here in Canada at that time. And Aubrey is walking and like playing like a kid. I mean, obviously, like she has some things to overcome, but she's playing like a kid.
And they're working hard. Like she works very hard for the abilities that she has. Like, holy, she's a firecracker. She's incredible, but she's walking.
Yeah.
That is like...
Oof. Yeah, and just like the 3 different perspectives we have, right? Somebody who had a tragic loss and has been making a massive impact, so much so that the impact that she's making has impacted all 3 of our other guests in some way, shape, or form. And I hope that Jessica Jansen knows that she's making these huge waves and making a big difference in a lot of people's worlds. And then hearing someone whose child has been impacted by the differences that Jessica Jansen has made from birth, basically. You know, like it's pretty wild to hear all 3 of those stories, or those 3 different types of stories put together.
It's incredible. And like Jessica Jansen talks about using her grief as rocket fuel to propel, to make change, to be a change maker. And holy crap, does she ever, like, to kind of fangirl over here for a minute. I just think, and you said it, Sammi, I believe you said it to her in the episode. You were saying how incredible it is that she is able to do that and that she chooses to do that beyond, she pushes through the hard. She's not mincing words. It's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do. It's not like it's not hard for her to see Aubrey walking and to know that must just, she talks about how hard it is. She's so open about that, and also open about the fact that she's going to use all those feels to propel her forward in her mission and in her purpose in life. And that's another one of those things that, like, we'd all like to say that we would do that, but we would not all do that. Mm-hmm. And I hope she knows how special she is, and how, like, she really does have a gift, and she's using her. I'm going to go ahead and say this because this is what I believe, and I think that she would agree with me saying this. She is using her God-given gifts to make change in the world. That's what I believe. But, like, she has this way about her that is really inspiring and really incredible to witness. And I'm so grateful that we were able to meet with her, and that she really opened this door for us to have this awareness month and for us to start having these conversations. I mean, she helps other people discover their purpose, and us included. You know, like, it's just, it just really, she just really is a gift. And I'm grateful for her. And I know, like you said, all of our other guests are immensely grateful for her as well. And yeah, the world is a different place with her in it and doing what she does. And not to, like, what she does, what the foundation does, what her husband does, like, their family is pushing through this very shitty, hard thing to make other people's lives better. Mm-hmm. I just think that's so commendable.
I agree. What you just said there is, like, she's changing people's lives and helping them find their purpose, including us. I'm like, oh, snap, girl, you're right. I didn't even really put that together. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And also, by the way, it was at Candace's event. It was at Candace's event that we met Jessica Jansen, and now we've had them both on the podcast in this awareness month. I mean, that is so freaking cool.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, like, it happened, I gotta see if I can find this while we're sitting here talking, but like, it happened so fast, and I don't want to, like, turn this wrap up to being like how we started this, but
no,
really just highlighting Jessica Jansen and, like, the fact that she did make that shift for us. And I didn't really put that together until you just said it, which is funny. Really? Because, yeah, over the past, like, 2 or week that we were away, lots of people were asking me, like, well, how did you come about doing this SMA and childhood cancer awareness? Like, what happened here? How did this happen? And I was like, well, actually, like, it happened because this girl messaged us saying we should talk about childhood cancer. And this girl, we went to her event, and she was like, oh, if you do SMA Awareness Month, I'll be on your podcast. And I was like, and we were like, okay. And that's really just how it happened.
We met Claire in person for the first time at Jess's event, and we had talked about doing the cancer awareness, and that kind of spurred on our imagination. Like, I think meeting Claire and talking about that ignited something. Like, it ignited a curiosity. It ignited our imagination to, like, oh, something else is possible here. We just can't quite put our finger on it, but there's something else that's going to happen here, and we're going to roll with this. And then we met Jess, and then the combination of our conversations with Claire and our conversations with Jess ignited this in us, and we were like, yeah, this is where we're rolling.
Yeah.
Right?
We're really excited about it now. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Not that we were excited before. It's just a different excitement.
It's different.
There's a
different purpose.
What the purpose for us is, like, both of us have always been cause-driven people. We've always wanted to rally behind different organizations, different charities, whether it was, like, actual foundation charities or, like, just helping people out in whatever, a one-on-one kind of situation. Mm-hmm. And what we're really excited about with doing SMA Awareness Month specifically, that we'll talk about right now, is, like, do we think we're making a huge, massive impact? I don't know. Like, I don't want to be like, no, but I don't know. But we hope to, but we don't know. I really struggle to just be like, we are! I really struggle to just say that. But because like, and I say that because I look at compared to what other people are doing, right? Compared to this massive difference that Jessica Jansen is making, and compared to this impact that Tori has with her thing, with her Instagram followers and the organizations that she works with, compared to what Candace is doing, advocating for herself, compared to the difference that Jess Lowe has been making for Aubrey. Like, I don't know. But we hope to be a piece of adding value to different organizations that we rally around every single year, and make an impact and help them help grow awareness to the organizations, to the people fighting for them, to the funds that people can donate money to help rally around, and opening it up to other people. And like, that's what we're excited about. It's not specifically like we love all of these stories, but how can we help the organization that all of these people's stories rally around? Many, it's one or multiple, it doesn't matter. And that's what I think you're saying is our excited about. And we found this purpose in helping people and helping things that are already going on and rallying behind them, and just really trying to raise more awareness, whether that's, like we said in our opening episode, whether that's actually to our Instagram followers or our Spotify followers, or just the people in our lives that we know. And I know that some of these conversations that I've had with people over the past little while, telling me about it, has made them think about things too, you know? So yeah, it did help find a purpose for sure in helping in that area.
100%. And I think, like, you know, it's easy to get discouraged if you look at something and say, well, I don't have $1 million I can put towards this, and I don't have 1 million followers that I can talk to about this. And there's just, the problem is so much bigger than me. There's nothing I can do. I'm just not going to do anything. But I think like the two of us, the combination of us is like, we want to have these conversations because that's what is within our capacity. This is in our capacity for us to rally around the people that we're meeting and learn new things and share that information with the people that we know. That's in our capacity. We can do that. I can grasp that. We can do that. And so, do we think we're moving mountains? Maybe not, but we hope to. And right now, these are the mountains we can move. We are doing what is in our capacity to do and what feels right in our hearts to do. And, I think we said in the beginning of August, just the more we learn, the better. And the more we get to know each other, the better. And it does affect, there's ripple effects beyond what we're going to know. And I mean, if we can hold space for people to share and to talk about it, and if we can learn from that, I mean, it can't harm, you know?
I'm here for it either way.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. Yeah. I'm so grateful to all the people who have opened up their time and energy and stories to us. Like, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but like, we are nobodies, and some of you don't know us at all, and you opened up your time, your energy, your heart story, your passion, your overcomings, your struggles. You opened them up to us, and we're eternally grateful for all of you that allowed us into your life so that we could try to make a bit of a difference. So
you're trusting us with your stories.
Trusting us with your stories. Without you, it would be a lot harder for us to do this.
That's true. That's true.
Not impossible, but a lot harder.
Yeah, totally.
And so we just really want to make that impact in these communities and make a difference.
It's been it really has been a great month. And I've just really enjoyed these conversations and getting to know these amazing people. And yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. To help support the growth of this podcast, please feel free to leave us a review, follow us on socials, or recommend us to your friends. Your support honestly means the world to us. With love, Sammi and Melissa.